All right, Barry, it's showtime.
It's showtime, Phil.
It's showtime, baby.
It's showtime, baby.
It's showtime, folks.
Come on, Bubba, it's showtime.
Showtime, bitch. Showtime.
Hey, Ringo, showtime.
Okay, Trey, showtime.
Showtime, Trail.
Showtime.
Showtime! Showtime!
Showtime.
Don't say it. Please, don't say it.
No, I have to say it, Mitch. Showtime.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, true believers. Welcome in once again to the fastest show in sports. I am the host and ringmaster, Ed Berliner. He is Mike Wise next to me. Next to him is Kevin Winter. These are the usual troika that you see and hear here on this. By the way, so everybody on the audio podcast can recognize you. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello.
There he is, Kevin Winter. And so everybody recognizes you. Don't say anything, Mike. No, that's okay.
Hola, hola, amigos.
Mr. Panama. Yeah. Make sure that he gets it right.
How many people are doing a podcast from Panama right now?
Not many, at least those who aren't under witness protection, but that's another story altogether.
Exactly.
We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. As I like to say, I gotta tell you, we may as well go ahead and start out with the playoffs because of everything that's been going on here. We got a bunch of other stuff to get to here, but I gotta tell you, if the Florida Panthers play again like they played in Game 3, and if the Edmonton Oilers get suckered into the Panthers again like they did in Game 3, this series is done. And it's not the best thing for the NHL. They need a 7-game series. But from what I saw in Game 3, that's the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they will win it again. I would not in any stretch, bet against the Panthers at this point. And that goes to Mr. Gambling over there on the far right. So
I'll say this, Mike. I don't know what your takeaway is, but through the first three games, especially coming off of, what was it, 6-1 in Game 3?
6-1 in Game 3, yep.
It actually felt worse than that. My biggest takeaway is this Florida team has become the franchise that A, will not beat themselves, B, you have to kill. And I'm not sure they're capable of being killed over a 7-game series. That's how good they are. They are just a team that is, when you got a core like that and you add a guy like Marchand who probably provided a little extra boost.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, they've got that something of, we're the best hockey team in this league. I don't care what our record was, what our points were. They play like we're the best hockey team. We're the better hockey team every night. Come beat us. And you can't. And by the way, whatever style you want to play, we'll play it.
I got to tell you, I mean, Mike, they're just impressive. You can't. I mean, I get a lot of people who give me a whole lot of crap for the fact that I'm a Bruins fan, and they say, oh, you just hate the Panthers because you're a Bruins fan.
Yeah.
Look, I actually was a season ticket holder for the Panthers in the first 5. I do. I mean, as a Bruins fan, you do. You have to hate the Panthers.
Right.
But you hate them because you want to be them. Let's be honest. The Panthers right now are setting themselves up as the kind of a franchise that everybody in the National Hockey League wants to be. They want to be these guys. They are big, they are strong, they are fast, they have veterans, and they got the best goaltender in the game right now. So that everybody wants to be them.
Yeah, I completely disagree. I think you guys are both out of your minds. I think Edmonton is winning this series in 6 games. I feel bad because Florida had a nice run, and this is over. And by the way, the whole thing last night, what a bunch of hooligans. I mean, they're just awful human beings. I see some guy, he looks like Yosemite Sam, just beating the hell out of a nice, innocent Edmonton Oiler who just happened to be in the vicinity. And okay, yeah, Nurse did take a run at somebody else before that and got his butt smacked around. But nonetheless, these are evil human beings. Their fans are as bad as Philadelphia's. They probably work security for Megadeth. And I don't see any of these people that you call Florida Panther fans, including you, Ed. Whenever the Bruins leave the playoffs, all of a sudden it's like, Ed Berliner, Panthers guy. Like, shut the fuck. I mean, come on, Ed. Get off the bandwagon. They're not. Edmonton is going to find a way to do this, and you know why? It's because Connor David's gotten mad about being punked around on the ice, and he's gonna and he's gonna light a fire under those Edmonton Oilers, much like last season after Game 2, and it's going to be a different series. You'll see.
Did his internet connection go out just in the right time for him to just not drop an F-bomb?
No, I think that might have happened also, but I think also poor Mike's internet connection went out, is going to go out just in time for his medication starts to kick in, which is always, we try to schedule this show and the taping of it so the Mike's meds kick in. This is an example of what happens when you take them 15 minutes too late.
Yeah,
I mean, and everything changes. I mean,
hey, I would.
No, I mean,
go ahead.
It was ugly. No, it was ugly, and I do. And look.
Are you kidding? If you're a Florida Panthers fan, it was beautiful.
They're on their way. Yeah, they're on their way. They're on their way to another Stanley Cup if they keep playing that. But look, hockey is it's one of the few sports, and this is why I don't know if the Edmonton Oilers will come back. I hope they do, but it's one of the few sports where. And I don't want to say that, like, there are series, full-on, not just games, but series where the best team has not always won. I mean, there are teams that have been outplayed significantly, and they sneak a few goals in late, and their hot goalie keeps them in the game. And some reason they've won not just series, but a couple times not the best team won the cup. So what I would say is, say like this. Let me real quick. I would say that not everybody's okay. Not everybody's winning off a deflected skate goal. Not everybody's winning off a ricochet and traffic in front of the net and dump the puck and just bull yourself in. I understand that. And I understand that Florida's outplaying Edmonton right now, but it's one of those sports that things can change more quickly than any other momentum in sports.
Agree 100%. But the beauty of hockey, and one of the reasons the Stanley Cup playoffs are the most exciting and best playoff, is because it relies on a goaltender. And you can have a guy who may not have a clue who this goaltender is. And if the goalie gets hot, who was it? Cam Ward for Laviolette's 06 Hurricanes? That they're an 8 seed or a 6 seed, whatever it was, right? Well, it's just one of those. It's one of those where if you get a goalie who can carry you or gets hot, you're going to win games and probably win series. Now here's the flip side, and this is where if I'm Edmonton, I'm scared shitless. Because not only is Bob, by the way, he used to actually only call himself Bob. Everyone asked, hey, how'd you do today? He goes, Bob. He just didn't know any English. Poor guy.
Right.
And I get it.
How do you say his name? Horoboski? All right, what?
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky.
I'm Bob. This is the thing with
Bobrovsky. Rhymes with Porosky. These Russian scum. I will kill this American scum. Okay, good.
Bobrovsky.
See what happens when you date Russian girls early on in your life? It just kind of sticks with you forever. Very nice.
Hello.
I love you, Tony. Here's the thing with Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's really good, and so are the Panthers. They run 3 lines that are probably ones on half the teams in the NHL. That's the problem right now. And on the flip side, Skinner's got to get his head out of his backside.
Oh, come on. He's got to get his head out of his ass. Let's be fair here.
Because
Skinner's one of those guys who's red hot or he's ice cold, one or the other, and he was ice cold in game number 3. You could just tell some of those goals. Yep. I mean, come on. You got to pull your goaltender in a Stanley Cup final after 2 periods. That says an awful lot about not only the goaltender's play, but the play of the entire team. Because the Edmonton Oilers, the vaunted Edmonton Oilers, stunk the joint up in game 3. That was their worst game of the postseason. And I don't know if they can come back from that. That's a backbreaker.
Ed, it was their worst game in 2 years in the postseason. Their worst game in 2 years. It was a bad time to have a bad game. and to have a bad
They were
day.
down. Wait. Correct me if I'm wrong. They were down 0-3 last
I get it.
year.
Last
I don't
year.
think
Forced
they
a
ever,
seventh
they
game.
did. Mike, they were, but I don't think they ever looked
forced-
as bad last year as they did last night. I'm talking in a singular game.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
they ever,
I mean, I
their
think a
will was
lot of it had to
broken.
do with the Panthers. I think you.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It is amazing seeing a player like Connor McDavid, who is clearly faster, more skilled than 99.2% of the hockey players who ever played in the game, to watch him whiz around the ice and somehow it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like, these guys are like, either they're hitting or they're blocking shots, they're cutting off angles. Look, you guys know more about hockey than I do. My hockey expertise was gained by covering the Caps in many postseasons. And to your point about goalies, oh my God, I was in Montreal in the Forum one night when the Caps had won the President's Cup in 2010. They looked great. And they got Halak, Yaroslav Halak,
Yeah.
just like
There you go.
stoned them for the next three. And, and they won in Montreal won in game 7. And it was like amazing to me that one player could have such an influence on a series, because the Caps really, they outshot the Oilers. They outshot the Canadians. They outplayed them for a lot. And yet that goalie was so good. But I would say this, just to your point, like, again, the one game is, I think it speaks for that moment. I mean, I'll agree with you if Edmonton gets their ass kicked in game 4, 7-1 or 4-1 or whatever, 4-0, but I'm not gonna concede the series until I see a pattern. And yeah, okay, game 2,
I think we
especially
saw
the
a hell of a
last 2
pattern in Game
periods.
3. I did. I think not only
Okay.
did we see a hell of a pattern in Game 3, but we've seen what the Panthers have always been consistently. This is a team that is setting the tone for what every other franchise in the NHL now realizes they have to be in order to contend for a Stanley Cup. They have watched Tampa Bay do it for a few seasons. They've watched the Panthers now do it 3 years in the Stanley Cup Final. Again, this is a very physical team. This is a veteran team. This is a team that's not afraid to give you an elbow in the face and make it count in another 30, 40, 50 seconds down the road, or even the next period. They set the tone. And there's a lot of teams in the NHL right now who are watching this team saying, we got to be like these guys if we're going to win a title. And it's not that easy.
They remind me a little bit about the Devils from back in the day. Remember that neutral zone trap?
Sure.
And it was just so and you had that Scott, what's his name?
Scott
who
Stevens.
Scott Stevens just laid out guys. But it's interesting. I mean, it's another argument, it's another show, but like, I am always blown away because whatever, I got that little neural cortex part of my brain that loves seeing like, it reminds you of when you're in kindergarten and the guy goes, fight. And like, all of a sudden, dudes are just, and you're going, oh yeah. But then the part of me, my kids are watching and I'm going, what kind of freaking sport is sanctioned violence? Like, and the commentators aren't like, oh man, I think those guys gotta, I think refs gotta get in there and clean this up. No, it's like, hey, that was good fighting for a while for Nurse with the other guy. They really went at it. Oh yeah, and you can see Kenny Albert was almost like uncomfortable, but the other 2 analyst guys are like, that's how to carry it. He was out there swinging for a while.
They're
and it's
right.
like, it's the only
They're
fucking,
right.
it's the only sport that does that.
That's the way hockey was played. You get into the other guy's brain, you stir it around a little bit, you give him some ideas on what's going to happen, you get him worried about the shot that's coming from the backside. Look, what we need to point out at this time is, again, what I said at the beginning, if the Panthers can continue this, what they did in Game 3, and if the Oilers don't get their heads out of their ass and play their game in Game 4 and beyond, series is over.
Well, so here comes the problem. And I am with you, but I'm trying to think of the counter for Edmonton. Usually when you get pushed around and then get embarrassed, and both happen in the same game, and you get punked, like happened in Game 3, your immediate response is to come out and try to play that similar style that punked your ass, right? You try to become the bully.
And Edmonton cannot do that. They cannot do that.
Correct.
They're a skill team.
They're a skill team. So you brought up the Devils from back in the day, Mike. I was thinking as I'm watching this series, this is the early 2000s version of the New England Patriots against Peyton Manning's Indianapolis Colts. The team that would push you around versus the team that had all the skill. If you want to go back to 01 with the greatest show on turf, feel free. But it was more of the Colts every year. They came to Foxborough and they tried to change the rules, or they tried to play that aerial style without pounding ground, and it's 20 degrees and it's snowing or whatever it is, and they couldn't get it done. New England's like, come on. And that's what the Panthers look like. So if you're Edmonton, you have to block this out. You just have to go back to playing skill. And you cannot, but how hard is it as athletes, guys, to not fall into a trap and take the bait?
Well, but let's be fair, too. National Hockey League players do this all the time. I mean, when it comes down to series, there might be, and again, this is just a might, there might not be any player who's better than a hockey player at putting it away. That's it. There it is. Compartmentalize, go away and play a different game. They can change it. But the Oilers are a very finesse team. The Panthers are come here. I'm going to hit you in the mouth as hard as I can. Let's see if you've got any teeth left, and if you really, that's exactly the way they play the game. And Edmonton, I don't know if they can hold that off. I don't know if they can get back into that finesse, because the Panthers are going to come out in Game 4. They're going to hit him again in the face. They're going to hit him again in the mouth.
Did you see at one point Marchand was going looking at the Edmonton bench, going, think, like they were taking like if you guys weren't so stupid, you wouldn't take the bait. But I think it's amazing. One, I love your guys' hockey knowledge, your puck knowledge. I feel like you actually understand puck movement, and I still don't. Two, I would say that Wayne Gretzky boiled this thing down more than anything. After Game 2, he said this was that game, not last night's game. He said it was such a great game that, two goalies let in 4 goals before overtime, and they played well. Like it was, they both played well, and so that would. But thirdly, it's amazing that we've spent this much time talking about a niche sport, Ed.
Hockey is hockey. Oh, come on! See, now you're going to go ahead and go off on that nonsense again. Who cares if it's a niche sport? The people who love hockey. You're
the one who was making saying
it's turning it into a national thing that people want to watch.
You were saying tennis was a niche. You were saying tennis was a niche sport.
Tennis is a niche sport.
It is. Everything's a niche sport now, except for the NFL probably, and sometimes the NBA.
Mike just wants to be the curmudgeon at large here all of a sudden, and wants to. He wants to start a fight here.
Hey, where the hell was he?
I just saw. Well, no, I just saw there was a Facebook comment where Ed was like, "This is really interesting," and then Harvey Aaron from the New York Times, my old colleague, was like, "So what? The NHL is a niche sport. Nobody, but they get outraked by a college their Stanley Cup Finals get anchored by any college football game.
Who cares? There is no college football anymore. Tennis is a niche sport, and we can go off on this. But
yeah, how about?
I just want to know where
go ahead, Kevin.
I want to know where the curmudgeon at large was 20 years ago, Ed, when Sports Pulse was around. You needed one.
This is true.
Got to remember, I was the curmudgeon at large in so many ways.
He was the curmudgeon at large, but you can't do that as the host.
Sure, I can. Sure, I can.
2 roles.
My show, damn it, my rules. I don't care.
But it's a weird segue. But I do think that the tennis was awesome this weekend. I didn't see all of it.
But you're going to go off on this because you had made a comment about Coco Gauff, and the comment was made as well that she's the first American to win the French Open since Serena Williams in 2015. Big deal. And people are ballyhooing this as a major moment in sports. No, it's not. It's a major moment in tennis. Not only that, but if Americans were so good at what they do, they'd learn to play that red clay in Paris a whole lot better, because every time it comes around and an American wins, they go, oh, they won on red clay. Other people around the world are winning on red clay all the time. Why don't the Americans train better for it?
Because we play on hard courts, damn it. We play
Yeah,
on hard court.
I do think that people do get overexcited only because an American won, and let's be honest, a Black American won at a time when everything else is anti-DEI now.
Look, and not only
We, you
that, and
know,
Coco
that
Gauff came off in her
we tried to
post-match.
get people of color. We tried to get people of color on our show, and you told them, Ed, no, I live in Florida. Ron DeSantis says no. I'm kidding, but really, the thing
You
about it
better say
is
that
that
out
is
loud,
when
man, because people are going to snip this up, and then it's going to be
right,
all
right,
over the
yeah.
place. I'm going to have
Yeah,
to
we are
put up with
both.
that bullshit.
We are, yeah, we are all race conscious, thoughtful, woke human beings who are allies, unless someone tries to take our job. Damn it, no. But here's the deal, really quick. I would say that it was a big deal because of an American woman. Because let's be honest, unless it's somebody that really connects, Steffi Graf, Maria Sharapova, unless it's somebody who connects, you need an American for a sport to really bloom in ratings and everything else. And so when Coco Gauff does this, it doesn't become like a sport of ovas. Every Ova or Sabalenka that wins, you know, at some point, if you're an Eastern European, it's great, but not everybody's tuning in for that tennis.
Yeah, but
So
maybe
when an
they're the
American
better
wins, it's a
tennis
big
players
deal.
in the world here. Look, everybody looks at Americans have got to dominate every single sport, and you've got to say it out loud. Sure, Coco Gauff winning the French Open is a big deal, but that's because women's American tennis has not been very good for a while. Come on. Since Serena
It hasn't been good since Serena retired.
Since Serena and Venus left the court, there's been nobody there to sit there. I mean, everybody has been talking about Coco, that she's the next great thing, and she now is the next great thing by winning the French Open. But let's be honest, Americans are not as dominant in tennis as the era that we grew up in, where we had the Steffi Grafs, where you had the Serena Williams, where you can go back as far to
Andre Agassi, Jimmy Connors,
American. Where are the American men in tennis?
Chrissy Evert. I mean, Chrissy Evert. Well, then we had an era of like Jennifer Capriati for a while. We had an era of oh God, who was the other one that was?
We had Lindsay Davenport.
Lindsay Davenport. Yeah, there was some very good. There's some people that had great careers that won majors, but another. Not now. No, you're right.
Not now.
We kind of got spoiled, and I'm afraid not kind of. We got spoiled because Serena became an event. She became must-watch television, no matter who you were and where you were and what gender you were. You actually went, I'm going to put Serena on because this woman, A, is kicking ass. B, she's coming to her end. And I think especially my generation, I'm 48. You guys are a little older than me. My generation of sports fans, how long can this how long can this woman do this? This is like watching any superstar athlete at their prime on their retirement tour. How long can you do this? That's why we all fell in love with Serena the last year. And then we wanted the next. We also, this society, we then immediately have to take someone to replace that superstar. We don't let that happen organically. We lift someone to an unrealistic expectation far too soon.
Correct. And again, that's possibly what has happened with Coco, because there have been a lot of people for the last couple of years have been touting her as the next great thing. I hope she is the next great thing. If she is, that's wonderful. But let's face it, Serena was not the best female American tennis player. She was the best American tennis player. End of story. For a decade or more. The American men have been completely useless when it comes down to major international championships. They show up every now and then. But the American male capacity in tennis has been diminished. Serena was the best. And now, you're right, Kevin, we all got to have a best. We got to have a best American has got to be in there. Okay, maybe it is Coco. But to say that her win at the French Open was as spectacular as I see some people making it out to be, it is if you're a tennis fan. But to the rest of the sporting community, okay, nice, Coco, come by and see.
I mean, Carlos Alcaraz coming back from 2 sets down against Yannick Sinner was amazing. That was a great, but Coco. Look, Coco's 21. She seems like a breath of fresh air. The fact that she's boy, she was so gracious in victory, and Sabalenka had that whole I did not lose I lost myself. You did not beat me. Like she was
Oh
just
no,
so
we went there.
negative, and she just had a well. It was a lousy way to. Yeah, everybody beats themselves in some regard.
Well, but that just goes
Like
to show the
the
arrogance
fact
of
that she
tennis
couldn't.
players. Tennis players are some of the
Yeah,
most arrogant athletes I've ever met in my life. They are self-absorbed. They are totally into themselves. They are, in many cases, they come from very privileged backgrounds. In many cases, not every. I want everybody to hear that. But tennis players act very differently. I go back to the era when I sat down one time at the U.S. Open with Arthur Ashe, and we sat there and just talked for 30 minutes. There was no interview. He was real. He was honest. We talked about so many things that weren't tennis. He was a man of the
you
world.
wait a minute.
It was
You
great to
talked
be
about
able to sit
you
there.
interviewed Arthur. You interviewed Arthur Ashe. That is awesome. That's
It
the most
wasn't
awesome thing you've
that's
told
what I'm
me.
saying. It wasn't an interview. It wasn't an interview. It was a
You just had
happenstance
you just spoke to him.
to just be there, and there were a few other people around. I came in, I was introduced to
Wow,
Arthur, and we sat there and just talked for like about a half hour. And he was
that's
so
amazing.
self-effacing. He wasn't Arthur Ashe the star. He was Arthur Ashe the human being. A lot of tennis players these days, they're not the human being. They're I'm the tennis player, I make millions of dollars, I travel around the world, I'm more important than you are. That's just my opinion with tennis players. I don't really find them to be very warm people at all. They're very into themselves. And then again, the tennis experts will tell me that, well, that's how they have to be in order to play on an international stage. Bullshit.
Whatever.
Bullshit.
Can I just say this? Can I say this? There used to be like when I was a kid. First off, I was the kid who would also watch a soccer match from Bolivia just so I could either avoid going outside or avoid doing chores around the house. Like I would watch I would watch any sport, right? But I knew somewhere around the 4th of July is the final of Wimbledon, and maybe you got Martina or Chrissy together, or maybe you had McEnroe and Lendl or McEnroe and Borg. Borg was a little bit I was a little too young for that, but you got McEnroe, you had some of Jimmy Connors in the U.S. Open. I knew when these finals were. I had no idea that the French Open was even going on until all of a sudden Kevin Harlan one night during the conference finals says Brian Anderson is covering is leading our coverage over in Roland Garros on TNT, and I went, okay, well now I got 2 weeks. So I sit there Saturday morning and I see Coco do her thing, and it's great. I put it on. Sunday morning, I'm getting ready for my nephew's graduation, and I watched the first 2 sets. And Yannick Skinner, he's got him. He's got Carlos, and he's going to beat him. I'm at the middle of graduation, which is just boring as all can be, as all graduations are. And I open my ESPN app, and it says Carlos. Go ahead.
But you're a sports
real
nerd
quick,
to begin with.
I was
You
going to
can't
ask
live
you.
without your sports.
I was just going to add, why would you be bored by a graduate? I believe your nephew was the first to ever graduate high school from your family, which I think is incredible.
I actually no blood in this. It's not even a blood nephew. But so I put it on. I see Alcaraz won, and I literally just went. My buddy has to hit me, and he goes, "Shut up!" I went, "Holy shit!" right out loud.
I'll be honest. I didn't watch any of it. I saw some of the highlights of it. But then again, on Sunday,
that's why you're so.
Yeah, but on Sunday I was doing a
it.
travel day from Seattle back to Florida. It was a.
Oh yeah, I would have had it on the plane. That's a perfect time to watch. It's 5 hours on a plane.
Yeah, but like
you could have taken the entire flight and watch that tennis match.
No. I'll tell you what I did coming back from Seattle. I watched, and this is a terrible thing to say. I'm going to get hammered for this by a lot of my friends when they hear it and I write it. I had never seen the movie Almost Famous. Now, have either of you seen it?
Yeah, you're a music guy too. Yeah,
I'm a music guy.
My favorite bands are like Journey and Def Leppard and all these bubblegum bands, and I've seen that movie a couple times. That's what that might be in my top 10. That's in my top 10 all time, actually.
I had never seen Almost Famous, and I watched the whole movie.
Wait, you haven't seen it, Kev?
I have not.
I mean, Mike is right. It might be one of the top 10 movies of all time. It is brilliant. It is perfect from first frame to last. The music is excellent. The story is great. Kate Hudson is marvelous in it. I almost freaked when I said, "Wait a minute, is that Ryan Reynolds? Holy crap, that is Ryan Reynolds!" And but it's just a
Wait,
brilliant
wait,
film.
wait. Who was Ryan Reynolds in the film?
Ryan Reynolds was the lead singer of Stillwater.
No, that was Billy Crud. That was Billy
No,
Crudup, I
no,
think.
Billy Crudup was the lead guitarist. Ryan Reynolds was the lead
Are you
singer.
serious? Ryan
Yes,
Reynolds
sir.
was the singer?
Yes, sir.
Jesus, that's incredible. That alone, I'm gonna rewatch it. I
And I
didn't know
recognized
that.
his voice right away. I knew who it was. And when you saw some of the other people who were in there as well, you go, I knew who that is. Cameron Crowe did a brilliant job putting that together. Kevin, I know it's not necessarily your music wheelhouse,
Yep.
but you got to take the time and watch Almost Famous. It really
Yeah,
is a brilliant
exactly.
film.
Hey, I may be having a 20-hour ride here real soon that my sister may have to split driving with me, so I'll put it on in the car while she's driving.
No, don't watch it in the car. Don't watch it in the car. Sit back and relax. I mean, you can't do that.
All right,
That's
so
why.
hang on. I may have a lot of that time coming soon. I'm not sure.
Well,
So I'll put it on.
You may, but that's exactly why I watched it. I said, okay, look, I got 3.5 hours here before in the run from Seattle back east. I said, let me watch it. And it was just, I'm angry with myself for not having watched it before.
Yeah, well, it's not even about Kev. It's not even about like like that era, that music. It's just about a kid falling in love with the band, trying to be a journalist, but also trying to be a friend. And it was like, the kid the Patrick Fugit or whatever his name was.
Believe, yeah.
My God, it's too bad. Like I saw him in something later, and I was like, God, I wish he never got old. He would have been perfect at that age forever as an actor.
Yeah.
Which brings us in, I guess.
What kind of music, Ed? What kind of music is the movie about?
It is
Rock?
it is 70s music.
All right, 70. Okay.
It's 70s. You can hear the soundtrack playing in the background, and there's Black Sabbath references. There's David Bowie references. There's Elton John tunes that are in there. Matter of fact,
the Elton John bus scene when the Tiny Dancer comes on. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, Kev. You'll almost get emotional during that scene.
All right.
But it's
been known to get dusty.
I'm so upset at myself, but that's okay. I finally got it. Okay. Which I guess, because I want to move on, I want to make sure we get the NBA covered in here and a bunch of other things, college football as well. But seeing as we're on music, we may as well go ahead and stay here right now. Sly Stone passed away at the age of 82. And for most people, they'll never know who Sly Stone was, Sylvester Stewart, Sly and the Family Stone from the 60s and the 70s. This guy was a legend in how he changed music and changed rock and roll in so many ways. And Kevin, your generation probably cannot appreciate it, unfortunately, because it simply was a San Francisco sound that changed music, which led me to, with this, Sly Stone was my first concert ever that I went to. It's 1974. I'm a kid, a real kid. Madison Square Garden. My dad bought the tickets, of all people, and to this day, I never asked him why he bought tickets to go see Sly and the Family Stone. It had to be because I had to be on him to get the tickets. Or else he was very cool, and I just don't remember it from those days. But we went to Madison Square Garden. We brought a family friend with us. It was my first concert. Stevie Wonder's Talking Book was playing as the warm-up for the concert, which made me a Stevie Wonder fan right then and there. And it was the wedding concert for Sly Stone. He got married before the concert, and he was married by Don Cornelius, the host of Soul Train.
Soul Train.
Soul Train. No, actually, it was Soul Train.
Yeah, right.
So,
if you ended up on Soul Train, Kevin, you were like one of the. It was pre-Fly Girls on that one show.
Living Color.
It was
Living in Color.
It was pre-Fly Girls. It was pre dance routine, backup dancer for Beyonce. It was pre all that. If you were on Soul Train, man, you could dance. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like if you compared the Soul Train dancing to American Bandstand, it would be like the most stereotypical, like, oh my God, culturally we are just way off as Caucasians. Mhm.
So Don Cornelius performs
That
a
was actually my
ceremony.
question I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you because I was not familiar, obviously, but I've heard of both Soul Train and American Bandstand. I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
is it somewhat similar?
Soul Train had soul. I mean,
Yes.
that was the difference. I mean, Don Cornelius was this guy. Hey, welcome to Soul Train. We're here.
Yeah.
I'm Don
Right. Yeah,
Cornelius, your host.
there's deep
And
baritone.
we're going to get into some OJs here in just a minute. But first of all, let's go ahead and talk with someone here about the new Temptations hit. I mean, he was cool. It was the whole thing
Yeah.
about it. And the thing about the concert was it was white, black, male, female, young, old, everybody was
Right.
getting along to this
Yeah.
because it was a great fusion of pop, jazz, soul, and rock and roll. That's what Sly
Right.
Stone did with Sly and the Family Stone. So I'm sitting there, my first concert ever. I'm enjoying it. Sly gets married. Don Cornelius says, "Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Sly, with the big fro about 9 miles wide, just leans into the microphone and goes, "Yeah." And
yeah.
that's
How
it.
many women? How many women now? If you ever said yeah, that does not go over well.
Well, the marriage only lasted 2 years, but
that explains.
But,
Yeah.
here we are
but
sitting there.
It must have been an amazing concert. I was reading
but-
stuff up on him today, and I'm trying to think of what his main song was. It wasn't "Tell Me Something Good." It was
Thank you
what
for
was the
letting
one?
me be myself,
Yeah.
everyday people.
Thank you for letting me be myself. Yeah.
Again, yeah, I mean,
He
he
had
had so many great songs. But I wanted to get to this. The thing about the first concert is I'm sitting there, our friend is sitting next to me. She was a daughter of a family friend, and my dad's over here. And just as they got the concert started, the fog is rolling into Madison Square Garden. It is a stone to the bejesus crowd with the wonderful flow of marijuana everywhere. And the guy next to me, probably, I don't know, he was maybe 20s or something. And I'm a kid at this point. I'm not even a teenager yet. He leans over to me and goes, "Kid, you want a hit?"
Yeah.
You toke. You
And-
got a toke.
No, I did not. I said, "No, I'm not allowed." My dad is just, "Don't worry, kid. You will." And
Oh, that's
like it,
funny.
and you'll like it someday too. Trust me on this. And my dad looks at me. Down the line, and I said, "Dad, is this what it's like to smoke marijuana?" He says, "You'll learn. You'll learn. Let's go. Watch this."
Hey, did
But he
Dad
was
take
so
did Dad take
cool
a
about it. But that
Did
was
Dad take
my,
a rip?
huh?
Did your dad take a rip?
I don't know. He's sitting 2 people away from me. I would not have been
Okay.
surprised. God rest the man's soul. He passed recently. I miss him so much. But
Yeah.
I bet that he probably did. But just the contact high
Oh yeah.
in the garden was.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
no doubt we walked out of there stoned. It was a great concert, and that was my first. So, Mike Wise, first concert.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna blow you guys away. I was 13 years old. It was 1977. My best friend at the time, Richard Goodhind, and me were at Elima Intermediate in Eva Beach, Hawaii, and we both bought tickets. Stood in line for a long time to buy tickets for. Come on, calm down, Nacho. It's not that bad. Shaun Cassidy. Shaun
everybody,
Cassidy
welcome
was
to
my
Team
first
B.
concert. It was
Shaun
like
Cassidy.
it was so pathetic. We were in the Neil S. Blaisdell Center, which is like the big arena in Hawaii, where Chaminade beat Virginia, by the way, a few years later. And
that
we're
one.
talking 8,000 screaming, prepubescent 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old girls, and
You
me
two
and
guys were the
Richard.
only non-12 to 13-year-old girls in the audience to see Shaun.
I swear to God, and it was just screaming. And the sad thing is we didn't tell anybody, but we went home and he bought the Tiger Beats and I bought the albums. And I was like, when I was 16 I wanted to be Shaun Cassidy. Wow. And that's where my music career started, and it ended with Def Leppard and Journey, and that's why I have no tastes.
So, Kevin, do
comes
you
to
know who
music.
Shaun Cassidy is?
Not a clue.
Okay.
Not a
So
damn
he was,
clue.
oh wow. So he
See,
was
that's
like,
what I knew.
think
I'm
of like-
looking at Kevin right now, and I can tell he's looking at this going, who the hell is Shaun Cassidy,
I'm
and
like,
why
who
are
the
you
hell
making
is
fun of
Shaun
him?
Yeah, so
Cassidy?
Shaun Cassidy was a teen idol at a time when, like teen idols were big. I don't even know who would compare today. Probably
Timberlake,
Justin Bieber
Timberlake
pre
back in the day.
adulthood.
Bieber? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
he was the Taylor Swift, male Taylor Swift of his day. He and his brother
No,
David
no, no. Wait a minute.
Cassidy.
Wait a minute. He was not the male Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has got more talent in her finger than Shaun Cassidy had in his whole body. The reason Shaun
Okay,
Cassidy
all
was a
right, but
teen idol,
anyway,
the reason, now be honest, the reason Shaun Cassidy was a teen idol back then is because his brother, David Cassidy, was a big star in television on The Partridge Family. His mother was
yeah,
Shirley
and his
Jones,
mom,
who was a well-known actress. His father was
yeah,
David Cassidy. No, no.
Jack,
Jack.
Jack
Jack
Hopalong
Cassidy.
Cassidy.
Jack Cassidy, who was
Yeah.
a very well-known actor at the time, so he had all this behind him. So he became a teen idol because he had the family behind him, and David was helping to
Right now,
push
I
him.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, I don't know. Either way, we go, Kev. Give me your first
Wait a
concert.
minute. No, wait a minute. We can't get off this for a second. I mean, to this day, are you still happy by saying that as a grown man and as an adult, your first concert was Shaun Cassidy?
I mean, I own it. I own it.
Okay.
I actually had this segment. I think it took over my radio show in D.C. one day when there was no sports going on, and I admitted this, and I think I gave listeners I was going to give whoever had the best story about their first concert was I'd send him $100 in the mail, and I did. It took a lot of calls. It took Spice Girls and some cheesy bands that you never heard of, and then this guy calls up, and he's this Stone Cold brother from DC, and he's like, "Yo, man, I got ripped the next day, man, like because I saw Wham." He was like, and then he goes, I had a shirt like the jitterbug to do the jitter, and he's like, oh, people were killing me at school. It was hilarious, and but everybody finds their tastes, and we either move on or we don't. And unfortunately, well, that's not true. I listen to a lot of stuff now. But
Although I'll wager
yeah,
that Kevin probably.
Sean Cassidy was an embarrassment for the more embarrassing story was actually when my dad, who worked at the Honolulu Star Bulletin as a copy editor in the feature department, got free tickets to Air Supply, and he wanted me to take my sister one night. Now I'm 19, my sister's 17, and I literally took her to Air Supply
Oh,
one
my.
night, and I got out of college basketball practice at Hawaii Pacific College, and oh my God, my teammates found out I went to Air Supply, and I was doomed. I was
You're doomed.
dead
Oh
from
boy,
that moment on.
Air
that's a
Supply,
rough.
Kevin, by the way, is one of those.
Hang
This
on,
is.
I know Air
You know
Supply.
Air
I know
Supply?
Air Supply.
Okay.
I know
I
Air
just
Supply.
I'm
making
all
sure,
out
Hang
of
on,
man.
love. I
hang on,
can't
hang
live
on.
without
Hey,
you.
How
you
do I
want to know
mute the
why?
microphone
I know
here?
Air Supply because driving in the car with my mother, she loved listening to Light 105 up here in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, and it was just soft rock. That's an Air Supply station. So basically, you're sitting in a dentist, and they're sitting in the
Yes.
dentist's office, and they play them, and they can play that music in the waiting room. That's
Which
what
is
my
the
mom
same thing.
liked.
I'm all out of love. Come on, here we go. Come on, everything's gonna be fine, Ed.
You're fine. Suck it up.
You don't
All
know
right.
what's worse, the dentist or the Air Supply. Okay, Kevin, first concert.
Not till college, and it was only because I worked it. The Steve Miller Band. The
That's
first
not
concert I
bad.
That's a
got
pretty good one.
the first concert I got to attend as a fan or just as me where I can
Fly
go get
like an
I can
eagle.
go get bleep faced. You too.
Which one?
Oh man,
You too.
what a!
You too?
Oh, I would have paid
I
for
mean, yeah,
that.
you too. You,
Oh
you
my.
too. For the first time. Now, granted, I also was 38, 39 because I wasn't a music guy. So U2 comes around. It's right after my mom died in 2015. And U2's here right after my birthday. They're doing that Innocence and Experience tour. And this was the first leg. We got tickets, and Ed, you know the TD Garden, the 9th floor where the hockey press box is?
Yep.
Go online and I find tickets up there. They opened it for seating.
Wow.
And I went, okay. But I also knew there's not a bad venue, there's not a bad look inside a TD Garden. And I didn't realize the stage went all for that Innocence and Experience tour. The stage went end to end, so you can see everything. And they had a stage in the middle, and that's where we sat. We sat right where I used to sit for hockey games, and we sat up there. We could walk around. You had freedom, and that was basically the Joshua Tree album was the first part of that tour.
I was going to say that sounded like Joshua Tree.
That was the Joshua Tree side, where basically there was not one bad song that was played.
Was there an occasion? Was there an occasion, perhaps at the TD Garden, where there was a, I don't know, a moment or two of airborne magnificence floating through the?
No, I was more I was more on the liquid propulsion.
Well, no, but I know you, but I figured you were more the liquid propulsion. But just
but was it in the air?
Was it in the air?
A U2 crowd is so different now. I mean, I got into U2 way late in life. Frank Isola and me were beat writers for the Knicks, the New York Daily News, and I was covering the NBA and for the New York Times. And he's like, it was a day off between the finals, the Sixers and the Lakers in 2001, pre 9/11. And we're at the Philadelphia, the First Union Center, and he's like, hey, you want to go to U2? Let's go get him. So we obviously called the 76ers people that paid for some tickets. They were decent seats. And I was like one of these people like, oh, God, U2. They're like, I always thought when the people started listening to them, they'd go out like rollerblades, Oh my God, I got into that concert. I started traveling with them for 6 years. I went and saw 12 shows in different cities. Boston, by the way, Kevin, I never heard them. Was it the Elevation tour or the Vertigo tour? Maybe it's the Vertigo tour. I never heard a louder crowd in my life, probably because all the Irish connections.
Yep.
But oh my God! But it wasn't just the music, the sound. I got out of there feeling like the world was a better place when U2 finished.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like, wow.
I have only seen
it was like a spirit. It was almost like a spiritual experience.
I wish I would have seen them in their prime. I mean, at this point, because U2 is a lot like a lot of bands right now. Whereas you watch people come in, you have to count those who have canes and walkers to figure out how they're going to get to their seats. It's just
and the other thing
they got a lot. They got a lot of young people too now.
That's what I'd love to go to.
This is also, and I am not going on a political rant. Just hear me out for a moment. Everyone now will speak. Most of these artists will speak a lot more at these concerts, given the climate of our country over the last 8 years. And so I went back to that U2. So we did Innocence first. 2 years later, they did The Experience. Same setup, newer songs. But on that back half, between every song, so this is now 2017. 2017, we know what's happening. Bono wouldn't shut up. And it's like, for the love of God, I just want to hear you sing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, I heard that too.
Yes.
Yeah, no, look, you know me, some days I'm left of Michael Moore, I need to be stopped. I go harder to my left than Jalen Brunson most of the time. And so I guess what I would, but the problem is, of course, is look, I love that when they start up the Pride song, they have Martin Luther King up there. And I love that. But for a while, they were like all into this Myanmar political prisoner, Aung San Suu Kyi, who ended up they were so influential. They helped free her. And she ends up becoming this dictator and killing the Rohingya, sicking the military on the Rohingya. Like nobody's perfect. But I like their liberal slant, but it's so over the top. There was a great Onion headline you would have loved, Kevin, when U2 band members pissed off at Bono, and the story went on to say that can you stop being such a fucking activist all the time and just do a concert for us?
Right.
It was hilarious.
By the way, back to Steve Miller real quick.
And then we got to go on to basketball. We're running out of time.
Never mind.
Go yeah.
No. Talk to the Steve Miller.
It was the first time I'd ever really been to a concert, but that was also the first time, A, I'm looking going, wow, this is pretty cool. B, I go, I'm working security at Hofstra's gym. I'm patting people down who are coming in, and yet I go, Shit, I guess I didn't do my job too good. Yep, there was a lot of that was when I went. I looked at one of my bosses and I said, "Hey, does everyone get absolutely baked out of their minds at these?" And they go, "Oh yeah." He says, "Don't worry." He says, "You didn't fail." I went, "Okay, good."
Just remember that first moment.
Yep.
One hit.
Yeah. Hey, kid, you want some? All right.
I was a security guard
mentioned-
I was a security guard at concerts in college, but that's another story.
You mentioned Jalen Brunson a couple of minutes ago, so we have to make sure we do this on the way out here right now. For the NBA, I think it's a worst-case scenario for them if Oklahoma City comes in and pounds the living crap out of Indiana for the rest of this. They need a solid 7 games. And look how much we've talked about it here in the last couple of weeks of how the series between Indiana and Oklahoma is exactly what the NBA needs, with 2 small market teams, technically, because it's not the big LA-New York run. But I got to believe it's a worst-case scenario for the NBA if Oklahoma City comes in here. I mean, they pounded Indiana in Game 2. They had their number and everything. If they come in and run this series, then it's not going to look good. Then everybody's going to say, see, we told you. Small market teams, you need one of the big guns in there. The Pacers really need to step this up. This series really needs to go 7 games.
Well, it's same with the Panthers Oilers. It's the same story. If the Thunder is that much better than the Pacers, yeah, people stop watching or they'll turn off their TV after the first half, and you don't want that as an advertiser. You don't want that as you want your finals to go say. Yeah. As a fan, unless you're a fan of a team that's better than everybody else, you want a series to go 6 or 7 games, and so. Yeah, I think that it's important. I think if Indiana can get 1 or 2 and we can get to 6, that's a good plot line. If it's 2-2 and they go back to Oklahoma City, awesome. If it's 3-1, I could almost say that the Thunder, it's not like the Oilers got home ice in Game 5. The Thunder have home court in Game 5 if they come up 3-1, and it's over. And so you're right. You're right about that. That said, and I know we couldn't get it today because I threw it out there too early. If the Pacers win 1 or 2, we got to start queuing up the Hoosier hysteria stuff, the Gene Hackman clips.
You even admitted you're a Hoosiers geek.
I totally. I got so into it. I called up Bobby Plump, the guy who actually is the real life inspiration for Jimmy Chitwood in the movie. He took Mylan to the title with that shot, which actually there's still a video of in the little Indiana Hall of Fame Museum in is it Muncie or Anderson, Indiana? Oh my God, it's so cool. But the bottom line is when we were Knicks beat writers, the Knicks would practice at Butler, where the last scene of the movie's filmed. We would literally. After everybody left practice, we would do the Jimmy Chitwood shot on the Butler floor, and everybody, it was great.
Can I just say this?
So I guess
we haven't done a show since Thursday. We haven't done a show since Thursday. And what we did on Thursday was prior to Game 1. It was the night of Game 1. We were talking about superstars. Tyrese Halliburton on Thursday night in Game 1 showed why he could be a superstar. Hitting that shot is superstar.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton also showed in Game 2 why others don't consider him a top 10 superstar in the league. You as the alpha dog of your team in the conference finals, you cannot have a no-show. Also, his running mate, the number 2 on that team is Pascal Siakam. You cannot be a no-show on the same night when your alpha is a no-show. To your point, gentlemen, if that happens again, finito. Over. Done.
I think what was really impressive was how Oklahoma City changed the game and how Oklahoma City took complete control. And again, there is a correlation to be made here between the NBA and the NHL Finals. The Panthers took control of game number 3 from start to finish. Oklahoma City ran that game from start to finish, and it almost seemed as if, and again, I'm sort of like the outside observer. I know the game, but not as deeply as many. It just seemed to me as if Indiana was flustered and they were being taken out of their game, and Oklahoma City ran an entirely different game than they did in Game 1. And that impressed the hell out of me with the way they played, because every time I saw it late, here it comes, it's 20 with here comes Indiana with a 3. Oh, they're right back on the doorstep. Nope, Oklahoma City answers right back. They played a perfect game, and if I'm Indiana, I'm a little concerned right now.
Mike, this is real simple.
I would look.
This is real simple. Indiana played game 2 like they already won game 1. It's real simple.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's actually that's the point I was going to make was
Okay.
that and the flip side of that is the Thunder had to win game 2 to win the series.
Yes.
They just had it was mentally, emotionally, just for evening the series, all that. Like you cannot go to Indiana down 0-2 thinking you got to like so I felt like the Thunder and also they obviously they tried to play like front runners in game 1 until they got caught at the end. But if it's a close, like I want to see Oklahoma City in another close game. If they can win a close game against this team, then I start believing in them. If they're just going to run away with it, you're the best team in the league. I want to see a close game and see who shows up in the crucible of those final minutes. That's where I really enjoy watching an NBA game.
Agree. And you want to know who the Thunder remind me of from a year ago? The Celtics. Not this year, but last year, even in their title run, the Celtics won by bludgeoning you. They weren't really good in close games. In part, they weren't in a lot of them. They just bludgeoned you to death. And I'm Mike, I'm with you. Congratulations, you can bludgeon a team. But can you draw up a play down 1 like the Pacers did without actually drawing up a play, and just Tyrese steps up, finds his shot, and takes it? Can you do that? When you do that, that's when you get elevated to the list of great champions.
And what we're looking at right now between the NBA and the NHL are really similar series in so many ways.
Yes.
I mean, with the way the Panthers played, with the way Oklahoma City played, and now we're all wondering if they can actually come back and do it again in their next games, and how's the other team going to react. This is what makes the playoffs fun, is when we get to this point where we're going, oh, wait a minute, these guys put it away. It's all over. Oh, these guys are dead in the water. They can't come back. That's the fun part about the playoffs right now. And I got to be honest, I'm enjoying. I enjoyed game 1 of the NBA Finals. Game 2, not so much, because I wanted a closer game. I really did. But then again, I enjoyed watching the Panthers beat the snot out of the Oilers because I'm rooting for Brad Marchand to win the cup. So there you go.
Did Brad Marchand won one already with Boston?
I want him to get another one.
By the way, Mike, you want to have a fun bet?
Yeah.
I just looked up. Marchand's plus 375 to win the Conn Smythe. Marchand's plus 375, third betting favorite to win the Conn Smythe. You want a little shekels,
that bet.
Right? If he gets one more goal and they win and they go up 3-1 and he scores in game 4, he's going to win the Conn Smythe.
Wait, who's ahead of him? Bob?
No.
It's got to be Connor McDavid? And maybe Draisaitl?
No, Bennett. Bennett won.
Oh, Bennett, okay.
Sam Bennett won. McDavid 2. Marchand 3.
I'd take that Marchand bet.
Right?
Yeah, the Marchand bet. Marchand bet. I would take
on that.
I mean, here's how much
he's
of a
already
hockey
the
fan
oldest.
I made out of Lady Shannon over the years. We're watching the game last night. She was out of the room. She comes back. I said, Marchand scored the first goal of the game. She said, oh, I'll bet you nobody had Marchand scoring the first goal of the game in a bet anywhere.
Oh, my God. She finally bought into the brainwash.
She's bought into the whole brainwash going, oh, wow, we got to look at the odds. Although, wait a minute, I got to admit, just last night, I don't know if every hockey arena has this, but the Panthers have a 50-50 for the Panthers Foundation.
By the way, most places do. Most arenas do.
Okay, I know they do it at TD Garden.
What is that?
Where basically you're buying tickets, you create a betting pool, and at the end of the night, usually at the end of the game, it's split 50-50. So
50 to the charity, 50 to the winner.
Right. So I'm watching the game last night.
Like the charity is getting all of that.
The unfortunate thing about it is if you live out of the region, you can't bet on the 50-50. You can only do it if you live in the area. Exactly. So I'm watching the Panthers last night, and I looked, and I just happened to catch the scoreboard, and at the bottom left they have the 50-50, and it was like 93,000. Okay, and it's a two-game. It's a two-game. They're doing it for Game 3 and Game 4.
Okay, here's the thing that you guys do. This is where it gets elevated your price. This is not just in arena, and that's where, by the way, now because it's so high, that tells me, and because you can only be in the state of Florida, if you're watching at home, you can go to the Panthers website and the app. There you go, attaboy, right? You can do it from there. Now, most arena 50-50s, why not? Most arena 50-50s are 7 to 14,000, depending on the game.
Right.
January 7,000 playoffs, you might get 14,000 to buy raffle tickets. But because you can do that through an app or through the website, however it was, that's where 93,000. And that's where it becomes.
When I looked at that, and it's a two-game, so they're also going to hit the 50-50 on Game 4 as well. So I said, hey, look, for $50, I get, 100 numbers, 150, something like that. $50 for a chance to win $50,000? You sign me up.
Mike, we converted. I won. We converted him to gambling. I won.
You didn't convert me to gambling. I gamble every now and then like everybody else. Look, I'm a hell of a blackjack player, and I'm very good on the wheel. Very good. So, I mean, I'm also very good at poker, too.
The wheel's like a chance, like it just, it's to chance.
It's more than that.
It doesn't matter when you get on the wheel.
Oh, yeah,
okay. Unless you're spinning it and you got a weighted ball.
I will tell you, I'm very good at blackjack, and I'm also very good at craps.
I'll tell you what, I won at the Belmont this week. There's like a horse track in Panama, like about 10 minutes from me. I didn't tell my wife I was going. I just got in a Uber and I went and I bought about 5 tickets for $10. One was a crazy superfecta that would have paid me thousands and thousands of dollars. But I hit the exacta, which wasn't really tough because the 2 favorites won. But I put $22 on it. And it was like journalism and sovereignty, right? Yeah, and they both they finished 1-2, and it was like $22 paid me like $145. That's not bad.
Well, that's why when Kevin says succeeded, we converted him to gambling. Dude, I've been doing the casino gamble for a long time. I just don't do games. I don't do games, and I don't do the exotics on games. I never have, because I worked in the sport, and when I got into radio as sports casting at WIOD in Miami, my first time about 1 million years ago, you did not touch gambling. You didn't go near it. You didn't talk about it.
The New York Times had a thing too. It was like real ethics stuff. So nobody bet on sports at all.
Because of the time I was part of the Dolphins broadcast team and part of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers of the North American Soccer League, and I was covering golf events. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot here. We had spring training baseball. Because of that, it was absolutely verboten. I had the sports director look me in the eye and say, you do not gamble on anything. You are part of the Dolphins family. You gamble, you're fired.
Right. I get it. By the way, because I actually have the prices, because the 2 favorites came in, and then even like the 3rd favorite came in 3rd, a 50-cent trifecta at the Belmont this weekend, a 50-cent trifecta paid $6.90. That's it. This was... a dollar exacta paid $6.50 on the dollar exacta. So 22, do some math, times 6. That's where your 144 comes in, because you also you decided to go a $22 exacta box. A 10-cent superfecta paid $4.05.
But see, that's it. I'm looking at the game last night while we're watching. I'm going, $50 for a chance to win $50K or more.
Yeah, I'm in.
Which is the worst. Look, sports bet.
I don't play Powerball unless
it's a terrible bet. It's an awful bet.
One day we'll talk about my worst gambling woes and how I thought I could be a good sports bettor because I knew the league and everything, and how I just lost my ass in about 6 months. And my wife and 13 years later, my wife is still angry at me for it, and she should be, because there's no way I'm going to win it back. And so I'm basically prohibited, other than NCAA pools and a horse race now and then. And I should be, because I'm a lousy sports gambler. The one time I had a chance to make money, Shaq gave me a tip and I didn't take it. And I probably was right because I was covering the NBA. It would have been insider trading, but it was crazy.
But not only that, down in Florida at least, the only place we have to gamble is Hard Rock. We can't bet any other way. We cannot bet on DraftKings. We can't bet on anything else because it is a state regulation. Hard Rock has all the gambling. We can't. We can't bet any place else. All our bets have to be placed.
Florida has everything.
If you do it, for instance, if you do it through cell phones or if you do it through your smartphone, they know where your area code is. So they can then decide that you can't bet because it's Hard Rock that has the betting in Florida. So I'll bet you I don't get those kind of numbers. Hard Rock does not do a lot of exotics.
Hang on. Ed, this could be a game changer. I should have known. I needed to know this information about a week ago.
I would just say this. Not knowing it. I would just say this, not knowing you guys very well, and knowing Ed that he lives in Florida. Anybody who moves to Florida eventually has a headline that begins "A Florida man." ...
Exactly.
And it just ends badly. It just ends bad. Like you either eat somebody's face because you took too many bath salts, or something ugly happens.
Or you get your face eaten by the alligator that you thought might have been a nice little lizard in your backyard, who was meantime eating your Pomeranian.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. No swamp for me, baby. No swamps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a story for another day.
It is. It is. Even if the golf ball goes into the swamp, I'm not going to chase it. I can pay for a golf ball.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll. Nope.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, boys.
Exactly. All right. That's it. We didn't even get to college football. We'll have to do it next time. All right. Don't forget YouTube. You can go ahead and watch the show on YouTube. You can watch clips from the show on YouTube at the Fastest Show in Sports. And don't forget as the lower third graphic has been telling you the whole show, if you're watching on YouTube, you can catch us on podcast. Just go search out Fastest Show in Sports, and you get us on all the main platforms. So you do it all there as well. For Kevin Winter, for Mike Wise, I'm Ed Berliner. That's it. Rock on, true believers. Thanks so much for joining us. Smoke them if you got them. And by the way, go play some Sly and the Family Stone. See ya. See ya.
That's all, folks.